Hey guys, welcome back to the second video of this RedBubble series. Today we'll be looking at how to create simple text designs, so all you'll need for this is a keyboard and mouse, no fancy tech needed. The easiest way to come up with ideas for designs using quotes in particular is to think of a niche that you can create designs around. Now a lot of people say that with print on demand it's important to stick to one niche for your entire account. With RedBubble, I disagree. I personally don't think this is important because we can split our designs into different collections, so you could have many designs that are all collected into their own niches on your account. For your first niche, I suggest using something that you're interested in yourself, whether this is gaming, animals, or something like cars. The benefit of using something that you're interested in is it's something you're familiar with, and you'll be able to see things from a designer's perspective, but also from a customer's perspective as well. You're essentially making designs that you'd want to buy. Once we have a niche, for this example we'll look at literature quotes. We can use Pinterest or Instagram to find inspiration. Now we could just search Pinterest for literature quotes, but if we really want to target a select audience, we should narrow this down a bit. Let's search for Roald Dahl quotes. When we're looking at these designs, it's best not to pick long quotes. Try and keep it short and sweet because we want the font to be large and legible when it's on our products. Remember that, although there's a lot of space on a t-shirt, you won't be able to make a wall of text stand out on a thumbnail, and this design also has to work on smaller products like mugs and phone cases. Here's a good one. Let's take this and head over into Photoshop to make our design. Now I'm using Photoshop, which is quite expensive to buy. If you want a free alternative, then there's a program called GIMP, which works in a really similar way, so everything I do here will be doable on that program too. I'll link the site in the description so you can go and download it there. Okay, to start with, we need to make our new canvas. For future reference, if you only want to design t-shirts, then there's a lot of POD stores like Amazon Merch for example, that require file sizes that are 4,500 pixels wide by 5,400 pixels tall. For RedBubble, however, we need files that are larger than this in order to fit each product. Remember that we can sell duvet covers on here if we want to, so this ensures that our artwork is suitable for all products. I usually go with A3 for the size and 600 for the resolution. Having a high resolution means that our designs will be crisp and really detailed. I recommend anywhere between 300 and 600, and the size of the image should be around what you want it to be in real life. So A3 is a pretty good size for a t-shirt design, and of course anything smaller than that will be absolutely fine. Now we'll simply select the text tool, click and drag over the area you want to fill with text, and then we can type out our design. Once your design's typed out, we're then going to highlight it all, make it nice and big so we can see it, and before we think about placement, we'll have a look at some different fonts. Photoshop has a lot of different fonts, and we can see in the drop down menu that there's a little preview of the font to the right next to the font name. This is pretty small, so what we can do is just click the font box rather than the drop down arrow, and then we use the down arrow key on the keyboard to go through the font options one by one. I prefer doing this because although it takes a lot longer, it lets you see the example on your own design. Once we've found a font that works, we need to centralize the text. Having a central text looks best on a shirt, unless the positioning of the text is part of the design. I've seen things like the list of TV show characters that have the text all pushed to the left, and that's quite common sight on RedBubble. For today though, we'll just keep it central. Now we need to think about which words we want on which lines. It's helpful to split the text up a bit so that you don't have too many words on one line. Sometimes you can have a single word on one line which is called orphaning the word, and by increasing the size of the word we can push a bigger emphasis on that word. If we wanted to as well, we could highlight single words and change the font for just that word. This is also a good way of emphasizing keywords and also makes the design look more interesting, but it's important to get a mix of fonts that work well together. Personally, a contrast between simple fonts and more expressive fonts is good to have as it's more eye-catching. You can also change the colour of the words either by highlighting some or all of the words and selecting which colour you want it to be. Once your design is finished, we're going to hide the background by clicking the little icon next to the layer. I'll show you why we do that next, but first it's time to save it. I recommend saving the editing file with Photoshop, that's a PSD file, so that you go back into the file and edit it again. For the actual file that we'll upload to RedBubble, we can either save that as a JPEG or a PNG file. Personally, I always use a PNG file, and I'll show you why here. We'll upload both the PNG file and the JPEG file side by side here so you can see the difference. As you can see, with the PNG file the background is transparent, which is why we hid that layer. This is really handy for t-shirts as you won't be stuck with a box around your text. It looks much more clean and professional than the JPEG version. And as we change the colour of the product, you can see how it stands out. That being said, sometimes you might want to use a JPEG. If there's a specific colour you want to use as a background, or if there's any patterns you might want to drag and drop into the design, you can save these as a JPEG and use them for things such as phone cases. RedBubble has the option so that you can have your main PNG file on all of your designs, but if you decide that you want a single product to have a nice background in, you can choose to update that file for the single product and replace it with the JPEG. It's handy to mention here that if you have a layer that you've added colour or a pattern to, you can save this as a PNG file too and it'll work exactly the same. Just be sure to name it something different so you don't get confused when you're uploading them. For example, you could have the pattern file named whatever the original design is, but add pattern to the end of it. Now let's have a look at the upload process of RedBubble. One of the things I really like about this process is how it's all on the same page. There's a lot of print-on-demand websites where you have to click on the individual product, change the colours and the positioning, save it, then come back to the main product page. But with RedBubble you just have to click each product and it works like a drop-down menu. It also changes the thumbnails as you work, so you can see what it'll look like while it's on the product. This is helpful with things like the notebook product, where the guidelines are a bit tricky to make the design central. On each of the products we can change the default colour of the product. Customers can actually change this when they purchase the product, so you're not choosing the only option for that product, don't worry. If you've created all black text, this stands out really well on a white t-shirt, but if you look at the black option, it'll blend right in, you won't be able to see the design, so keep this in mind. After this it's just a case of clicking into whichever product you don't line up properly, and then changing the sizing and the position to make it fit. If designs don't work with a product, such as the leggings, you can just click to disable the product and it won't be available in your store. Once we're done here, we need to title the product. We don't have to consider an awful lot with the title, because you don't really notice the title when you're looking through the products, and the search function works by using tags. This means that we don't have to include things like cool funny t-shirt design within the title, we can just throw those in the tags. When you're adding tags, you're limited to 50 tags, which is actually a lot of tags. Most of my own designs have around 15 of them. To think of them, just think of your own niche and try and use words that people in that niche would search for. So for this example we can use Roald Dahl, stories, literature, books, childhood, nostalgia, and because he's an author with a lot of books we can also include those too, such as Matilda, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach. Another thing to point out that RedBubble's pretty clever with how it adds up the tags. For example, if you wanted to use Roald Dahl quote, Matilda quote, book quote, or literature quote, you don't have to keep writing quote after them. Just separate them with a comma and have quote as one of the tags. This means that you'll find people who are searching for Matilda as well as Matilda quote. We can add a description here. I usually just throw in something simple as it doesn't affect the listing order or anything like that. So let's just say something like, love reading, love Roald Dahl, this design's perfect for you. Once we get a few designs you can start adding them to your collections. This is where people visiting your store can find topics relevant to their interests, so you can group niches together like this. To make a collection, just head over to the Manage Portfolio section in the main drop down menu. After this we can choose which product we want the design to feature on in the main thumbnail for the design when people are searching through the results. You can either leave it alone so that people see the entire artwork and imagine themselves what the product is going on, or you can choose a specific product. A word of advice here is that it's tempting to set this for t-shirts for each design, but the page for t-shirt designs doesn't have a favourite button, so you'll receive a lot less favourites like this. Most of the other products do have the favourite button. I personally use the mug template a lot. Next, we can say what media the artwork is, so we'll click that it's a drawing that's digital. Then we need to tell RedBubble if there's any adult content in here so that it knows to hide it from certain customers. Then click to say that we haven't copyrighted any characters or themes. Usually with quotes we're fine as long as it doesn't mention any characters. For example, the phrase "I choose you Pikachu" would be copyrighted as it contains Pikachu. On the other hand, "I choose you" isn't copyrighted, so if we had that with a little lightning bolt underneath, that design would be fine. When you're all set, click to upload. This will start uploading the design, and when it's done, it will automatically go to the product or image page. After this, it takes around 15 minutes to go live. That's while they're doing all the plagiarism and copyright checks. After that, you're all done. It's on to the next one, and the sales will start rolling in. Thanks for making it through the video. If you have any questions, again, please drop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. If you could like this video, that'd help a bunch, as would subscribing to the channel so you can catch each of these tutorials as they come out. Also, if you've got any advice that you want to share with other viewers or myself, feel free to leave that in the comment section too. In the next video, we'll be looking at niche inspiration and maybe get into more difficult designs. Thanks for watching, see you soon.